So we do have some takeaways from today's sessions and presentations and everything we've been talking about. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank you all for coming. Every time we do Teleport Connect, my favorite thing is basically to interact with you all, because computer security and security is just it's something that everyone has to do. So we have folks here from all kinds of industries, finance, software development, manufacturing, and interacting with all of you allows me and allows other teleporters to learn about everything, about how the world works. So thank you for being here, because it's incredibly, it's just a lot of fun. So what have we learned today, hopefully? First takeaway is that identity attacks are majority of attacks that are happening right now. And the reason for that is because they're just most cost effective. It's relatively easier to trick a human into making a mistake and then exploit that mistake to get in. That's just much cheaper today than trying to find an extremely rare and extremely expensive malware, zero-day exploit. And as been said just a second ago, with generative AI, and by the way, I'm fully aware that we're all sick of hearing about AI at this point, but it is true that generative AI lowers the cost of entry into this kind of hacking field. So I do believe that it might already be happening, that a 14-year-old teenager in the suburbs of Chicago will be able to launch fairly sophisticated identity attacks on thousands of companies all at the same time, with the help of these new tools that are being available now. So identity is now a focus. And it's not just our opinion, as I said earlier. It's the survey that we've done, and just talking to all of you, it's top of mind. So the second takeaway is people is the most important thing. So as much as we love technology, as much as we love computers, but what is happening is that the level of complexity that exists right now in our environments, the level of complexity that's inherent in the internet itself, is now so high that it's simply overloading our brains. And by the way, you can think about it even like from first principles. So the amount of data and amount of traffic and the size of the internet itself is growing faster than human population, which basically means that we are at a constant deficit of expertise, and it's only going to get worse. In other words, every single company out there probably, actually quite definitely, doesn't have enough expertise and competence from cybersecurity perspective. So therefore, identity attacks, again, this problem is probably going to get much worse unless we do something about it. And what are we going to do about it? Unification. So I talked earlier about the importance of considering different types of identity when making decisions about whether access should be allowed or not allowed. I used an example of a developer using a company laptop to access a mission-critical system in production, and only when there is a ticket assigned to that developer to go and do this job. So if you think about logically, to enforce a rule like this, an identity of laptop needs to be considered, an identity of that developer or engineer needs to be considered, identity of that workload needs to be considered. Is it staging or is it production? And existence of a ticket assigned to that person also needs to be considered. So how do you do that if all of these critical pieces of information are stored in different silos that do not talk to each other? So that is what needs to be broken. Silos need to be broken. All of these identities, they need to be available in order for your access control solution making that decision. Ironically, this point sometimes is confused. Well, not confused. When people think about building defense in depth, sometimes you might arrive at the conclusion there is a contradiction. So on one hand, these guys are telling us that we need to consolidate and unify everything in one place. And on the other hand, like, we need to be thinking about building our defenses in a layered fashion, because we don't want to have a single point of compromise. But What I mean by this is not having all of your eggs in one basket. I'm simply pointing out that identities of different pieces of your infrastructure, all these actors that are involved in computing, they all must be considered when policy is being enforced. Next, and we talked about this a lot, and you've heard questions about should CISO be at a board meeting, how easy or hard it is to get budget, what kind of information we need to provide to CFO in order to get that budget approved. Look, at the end of the day, it all comes down to communication. It all comes down to being able to influence your organization. It all comes down to be able to collect the right data. So this is an important pillar of cybersecurity as well, because again, it goes back to the earlier point I was making. It's not just about the technology. At the end of the day, it's all about people. And when we talk about people, I think the most important group I want to address is you. So you are probably the most critical component of infrastructure structure at your organizations. Like, the reason you're here is because you like this stuff. You care. We talked about like over and over again that most people don't care about security. People just wake up, they go to work, they need to get something done, so then they will, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, they will get their bonus, they will get back home, they will watch the show. Security is not top of mind. But it is for you. So thank you for loving this subject as much as we do, and thank you for contributing again. Thank you for being here, and so you are the leaders. And at the end of the day, getting all of this information, getting all of these brains that we get in one place once a year, and exchanging this information and giving each other tips and pointers and best practices, how to influence decisions in the organizations, how to adopt better technology. Yeah, it's all on you. So, and I don't want to be the guy who stands between you and some good time out there. So again, thank you everyone. This was Teleport Connect, and we'll see you again next year.